Hello, everyone, and welcome. Here to introduce both Athena and Fiona. Do you guys want to take a second and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do with social?
Sure. So my name is Athena Nestoris. I am the Senior Manager of Advertising and Social Media Strategy for United Airlines. I oversee our paid media strategy for the U.S. So anything that is point of sale U.S. and trends that we're trying to hop on top of, I oversee.
And I'm Fiona Kelly, the Global Director of Social Media for Hyatt. So I work across World of Hyatt, which is our main brand, and then all of our brands underneath the portfolio.
Awesome. Let's kick it off with a timely one. I feel like so much of the internet has changed after COVID. I want to see how you guys think your social users' behavior has changed in engaging with your brands.
Well, I think definitely what we've seen is a shift towards wanting to see really positive, feel-good content. Obviously, travel is filled with those, so it's nice to be able to really lean into that. But also a focus on well-being. That's a huge focus for us at Hyatt currently. And how does that come to life through different experiences across our brands? The other thing we've seen, and I guess this is not unique to Hyatt, but just in general, is just short form content, but then at the same time, long form content. So it's both. So really consuming super short form content, but then also really wanting to dive into deeper topics, loyalty, how to use your points, etc. That would definitely be one that lends itself more towards long form content. So that's really what we've been seeing.
And what we've been seeing, and me personally as well, is folks are starting to use social as a search algorithm. A search engine is what I mean actually. So I know myself, I've found the best recipes actually on TikTok, and that have become staples, in what I use every day now. And so folks are just looking for information, helpful information in different ways. So how can we also just put content on our platforms? What does United Seat look like? What does Premium Plus look like, so they can understand, what is that product as they're searching, to book their next travel.
Yeah, definitely. With having to adapt to new behaviors and obviously trends that pop up and new platforms, how do you guys determine what is like an authentic way for you guys to engage, and how do you determine what meets a threshold to engage? Because you can't act on everything. So what's that threshold for you?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, and I'd like to tie this back to our structure at United. So we are structured very interestingly. We have the paid media team, which is what I oversee and help see, and then we also have our organic social team. We're on the same team. We are counterparts. We are working day in and day out together. So I think that really lends itself for us to jump on trends and see what's happening. And then we also have something we coined internally, see something, say something. So everyone's corner of the internet is different. What I am seeing, my social algorithm is very different than what you're seeing, right? So, if I see a trend happening, I'm gonna flag it to the team and, hey, is this something that's worth, us jumping in on, because our organic social team is only gonna see, what's in their algorithms, right? So that's how, we're structured.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. There's so many trends. So many. I'm hearing about the milk and the soda from the Vox panel. Big in Utah, I guess, because there's a lot of Mormon who can't drink coffee or alcohol. But thinking about trends, there's so many that you could jump on. And I think for us, when we, first of all, figure out what is the trend, does it make sense for us? Do we have the proof points somewhere in our portfolio or in our offerings through our people, our experiences, our locations to really be part of it? I think, really to be an authentic brand speaking in the space, we need to have a few proof points of like why it makes sense for us. And if we can't come up with 2 or 3 examples to kind of bring our spin on the trend, then we just decide that it's not for us and we move on. And I feel like we've seen the greatest success when we have the strong proof points behind a trend to really make it come to life. Also, trends happen so quickly that we also have to figure out how can we get content for this quickly and really capitalize on it. So that's another thing that we definitely consider when thinking about trends.
Yeah, and I think identifying the trend is almost half the battle, and I think jumping on it's a little bit more. And I think speaking of those trends, when they are so fleeting, can you guys give me an example of a time where you took a trend and actually turned it into part of a longer term strategy, or were able to add it to an existing strategy and make it feel more well-rounded than those fleeting moments?
That's a good question. Not a trend necessarily, but the platform Threads, which is, people are still on Threads. I logged into my Threads, I haven't been in it in a while, and I was like, this is interesting, it's evolved. And what we've really been seeing on our Threads that I really love, it makes me think about the early days of X, Twitter, and we are seeing a lot of genuine organic engagement. Organic, what does that even mean? Organic engagement, and it is really nice. We had a thread that was just something like, share an emoji and we'll name a travel destination for it. And we had a huge response, and people were pretty fun, throwing out emojis that made no sense. And so it was fun for us to really brainstorm where could they go, what hotel could they stay at, or what brand works for them with that emoji. But I love looking at that, looking at our threads and just really actually being able to have organic conversation and participation. It's also given us a lot of ideas for other content series from there. So if we're seeing that people are really wanting to talk about where their best views were, or the hotels with the most amazing suites, or the best breakfast that you can get as being a Globalist loyalty member, that to me informs, it's really great social listening in its most organic, purest form. So not necessarily a trend, but I feel like Threads had its big moment, and now it's sort of figuring out its way and its place. But for us, it's still an interesting space to listen to authentic conversation from our guests.
Yeah, I think Threads was, for people who've worked in social a long time, and like the three of us, when that launched, it did feel like you were thrown back to the days of 2011 and actually getting to do fun organic things. So, yeah, exciting.
Yeah, I feel like Threads is so positive. It's actually so fun to, hop on there. But a trend for United that took us throughout our whole year last year. Our organic team, we're always going to post things. For a holiday, we can plan for that. We know what's going to happen, and so I actually have an example, if we want to play that next.
My name is Brooke Patterson Van Hal. I'll be your first officer to move over to Newark this afternoon. Today is a very special flight for us, probably the most special one in my aviation career. You see, this is our captain, Bertha Patterson. Not only is she my role model, she's my mother. The day I took my very first flight lesson, it was my dream to fly with my mom, and today that dream comes true. She raised me to the level that I am today, and I'm super proud to be my mom. I'm very excited to share this experience with you. Thank you for all that you do. Round of applause. Thank you so much for playing with United.
Yes, I know. So we posted that for Mother's Day, obviously something we can plan around. That was actually only meant to be an organic social post for Mother's Day. That's it. And overnight, it blew up. It blew all of our benchmarks. And so obviously we took a look, we're like, all right, more people need to see this. They are craving it. They want to see it. So this is where our structure comes into play. My paid social team, that next day, we're able to boost that right away because we have that power in-house. And so we did that. Blew other benchmarks for all of our paid media as well. And so then we said, hey, this is doing really well. Let's put this in our brand campaign. So we actually scratched some social creative for our brand campaign. We said, more people want to see this, we're going to put more behind it. So just something that took off and, went for the entire year.
Amazing. I feel like 99% of social is being as nimble as we can be. I feel like that's such a good example of that. Another huge part of social and working in social, both organic and the brand side, is working with influencers, and that has also changed so much in the last few years, especially after COVID. And you both work in different areas of the travel space, and I think that specific industry of influencer has exploded, and I'm curious how you guys have been able to translate your company voice and brand voice through a third party authentically.
Yeah, I know. We had some fun talking about this. We're both, in the travel space. There's travel influencers everywhere, and everyone wants to work with a brand. So the way that we approach it at United, any partnership that we're doing, even beyond, influencers, they have to fly United at the end of the day. If they're not flying United, we're probably not going to partner with you. And so something we talk about internally is we don't need to sell travel, especially post-COVID. Everyone wants to travel. don't sell travel, sell United. Why would you want to fly United to that destination for your vacation or something like that? So that's how we approach that fair. And then we also have a part of our team, employee content creators. We have 100,000 employees that are running our airline. They're on the front lines. They are flying, our airplanes. They're already posting on social themselves. They have their own little brand. So we actually have another dedicated part of our team that is engaging with those folks and coaching them. How do you post on social? What's important to our brand? What's going to resonate with your channels there? So that's just another area that we're able to, engage with customers because they're following more than just, our brand handles.
Yeah, the best people are the people who already have stake in the game. It's how they spend their weeks. Of course they want to talk about it.
It's similar for us, the travel industry, specifically with hotels as well. Like there's so many amazing hotels in beautiful destinations and locations. And for us, I think where we've really kind of narrowed in when we're working with influencers is really also wanting people who are familiar with Hyatt, who are members of our loyalty program. When we talk about that, it can get complicated talking about points and benefits and all of that. And we've found that working with people who actually are members themselves, who are familiar with our portfolio, they can tell the story better than any bullet points that we're going to send them to post. The content is also just more authentic because they are actually staying with us. So similarly to Flying United, we want them to be staying with us. And then also just looking at the range of influencers. There's obviously a lot of incredible influencers in the macro space, but for us, we're really finding that more mid-tier to micro influencer is where we're generating more authentic conversation, because obviously impressions, you can generate a lot of impressions working with a large influencer, but for us, we really want to be having the message of, why stay with us, why staying in the world of Hyatt come through in their content. And we find that in the macro to mid-range tier, there's a lot more authentic conversation in the comments versus like the much higher tier influencers.
Yeah, and I think the authenticity is what drives more brand loyalty, which I think is most important in the travel space as well.
Yeah, there's a whole de-influencing movement currently of just being thoughtful in what is being, I think influencers in general, trying to be really thoughtful in what they're talking about in consumption, in spending, etc. So for us, we really want someone who isn't just influencing because they're in a partnership with us, it's that they really believe in what it is that they're talking about and they are generally enthusiasts about Hyatt.
Yeah. I also think the upcoming generation is a lot more media literate and in social media literate than previously, so they can read right through inauthentic influencer campaigns. That's great. My favorite question, how do you see, what trends do you see popping up for social media in general for the remainder of 2024 and into 2025? Do you think certain areas will become less important, more important?
I think you spoke about this in the beginning, but search. Social as search. So definitely people are using platforms to search, maybe even more than they're going to Google. So really thinking about how we can talk about what people would be searching for in our content, but also not sounding like an SEO robot in our copy. I think that's going to be the balance, but kind of reverse engineering when we're putting together a piece of content, like what would this be, what is someone searching for where they would surface this up, and how can we integrate the messaging in a way that feels authentic?
I think you mentioned it earlier too. I love that we're playing off of each other. Long form content, we're definitely seeing that, and me as a user as well of social. There's more episodic content. More brands are also going to start live streaming sports and things like that, consuming. So more, that attention span is actually going to be going a little bit longer, but it's got to be the right content for them to engage with.
When TikTok added 3 minutes, I was shocked. When they added 10 minutes, I was even more shocked. Now I think they're up to a half hour. It's bananas.
Yeah.
All right, well, I was wondering if we had any questions for any of our lovely panelists here. Go ahead.
Question. Hi, I'm Devin Jakin with Media Lab. We own and operate brands Genius and Integer. Kind of talking about the creator aspect of your assignment. So if you're working, I understand that the idea of working with creators that are enthusiastic about your brand and obviously, stay with Hyatt and fly with United. But you're probably engaging with other customers who are already your customers. partners. So how are you working with creators though that may not be as familiar with your brands to reach new audiences?
I think, an audience that we reach at United or try to reach are the switcher audiences. So where are those markets that, we're competing with other airlines, and how can we show them that, they should choose United on their next flight? So Denver is a great example. For us at United, we go head to head with Southwest. We've got a lot of points there to talk about. We have seatback screens. There's a clear product difference that, we can reach those folks. So that's an area where we might be open to trying, someone that historically was a Southwest flyer and what was their first time flying with United. So we're definitely open to it in the right areas where that makes sense. But, that authenticity really comes through with influencers. So if they're already flying us, we can kind of let them be them and tell that story of United and why they fly United.
I think it's similar. I think it's just, not that everyone we work with has to stay at Hyatt, but I think it's also just sharing what differentiates us. So similarly, we're in a lot of markets where our competitors are, just by pure, that there are many hotels in many markets. And so what makes us different? What differentiates us from our competitors? What can we offer that would make someone want to stay with us, not only at that hotel or at that brand, but also to consider our entire portfolio of brands under the world of Hyatt. So I think it's just establishing from the get-go what the points of differentiation are that we want the content creator to cover during their stay with us.
Awesome. Any other questions? Yeah.
Ella, also at Media Lab. So far, conversations across all of the panels, including this one, have mentioned or have kind of framed social media as this very positive wonderland. But I think travel and hotel in particular, there's definitely instances of people using social from a negative perspective to address delayed flights or a not so smart hotel. How do you all address instances of pushback or negativity on social?
Positive wonderland. Okay, that's what we want it to be. Definitely, I mentioned X, which is changing. The network is evolving, but that is really a channel where we do see a lot of customer service come through. We get comments on our Instagram primarily, some on Facebook, but really a lot of people are still using X for customer service. So we have a customer care team, and they're the ones monitoring and responding to that because there's a lot of details that are needed, like details of your stay, what hotel, that we don't necessarily have access to on the organic social team. So we are monitoring and responding to all the customer service issues that come through there, but it's also a nice way for us to see what's happening across our portfolio organically as well. Because if we can see that there is an issue happening in a hotel, we can kind of zero in on what's going on and make sure that it's remedied. So it is definitely still a customer service channel as well, in addition to our positive, amazing, organic content.
Yes, we always strive for the positive ones, but we also have a social care team as well, where they are ingrained. They are looking at every comment, especially ones that are trending. So we actually work hand in hand with them. Sometimes we might see something before they see it, and especially the ones where people have a large following. That is where it can change very quickly. And so that's where, we might see it's trending a little faster, and so we flag that to that team, and hopefully we can, reach out to that person faster than the customer care team can, and, evaluate it and make sure it's remedied. So that's something that our team does. That's it.
I will live and die that the best part and the most important part of a social team is the community management. I think it's so undervalued. I think that's such a good example of that. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm Leah from MIQ. With both of your brands having such a diversity of audiences, how are you using your platforms to stay true to your brand while still speaking to every different type of audience without alienating anyone? Do you just use different platforms, or do you try to stay on one sort of theme?
I'd say, we are always looking for new creators, and for all audiences. And we are always just trying to partner with new ones And we like to lean into their strengths. You know, if someone has a larger following on TikTok, we're not going to want to copy and paste that, you know, on Instagram, on Threads. We're also using creators also to help us with our organic channels, because that is also what's working and what's better. And that might also help us grow our following, because then people are more in tune to that and they're hearing it from a different voice rather than just United.
Similarly, for different platforms, we tailor our content for the platform. So for TikTok, it's a little different than what you're going to see on Meta or on X. But we also have, we have World of Hyatt social channels, but then we do have individual channels for each of our brands. So like, for example, Park Hyatt, very high-end luxury. The content is going to look and feel a bit different than something more on the select service end of our offerings, like a Hyatt House or Hyatt Place. And so we really do a deep dive into each of the guest profiles for those brands when thinking about the content, and then we're tailoring unique content for each of those. For World of Hyatt, which is our, you know, kind of brand that all of these, like the master brand that everything comes under, that's really where we've established a World of Hyatt voice, tone of voice, and look and feel for our content. And we are featuring different brands, but it's coming from the World of Hyatt as opposed to an individual brand. So I think it's really about tailoring to your core audience, depending on what the brand is.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.